What's up, everybody? Welcome to the NoLifeToMetal.com channel. My name is Scott Waters, and this is the much requested Aerosmith video, part 1. I'm not going to show everything I have in this video because it would be massively long. This video is only vinyl. Just showing my vinyl collection, what I own from Aerosmith and vinyl. I'll do a second part, and I'll show CDs and CD bootlegs and special editions and box sets and all that kind of stuff in another set. But for now, we'll get right to the vinyl. I have a lot to show, so I'm going to get right to it. I'm going to try not to talk too much about it, but everybody knows who Aerosmith is. Formed 1970 in the Boston area. Formed by Joe Perry and Steven Tyler and Ray Tabano, who I'm missing here, Tom Hamilton and Joey Kramer. In 1971, Tabano was replaced by Brad Whitford, and that pretty much, is Aerosmith and what it's been throughout the years, save for a small period of time in the very late 70s and early 80s. So I'm going to get right to it. First release, 1973, and this is the very first Aerosmith album. The band hated the cover. The label put very little into promoting it. They were spending all their money promoting Bruce Springsteen, while this album just sat and collected dust and nobody heard it. But the band didn't care. The band toured relentlessly, playing show and show, show after show after show. I don't think I said that 3 times fast. And built up their core audience, which is, back in the day, that's the way record labels actually built, bands. It wasn't just throw an album out and get a hit and sell a million copies or get dropped. They built up artists. Aerosmith is one of those artists. This is actually a very first pressing. This is a Canadian pressing, and it is actually the very first pressings of Aerosmith, whether they be American, Canadian, whatever, had the album, the song "Walking the Dig" instead of "Walking the Dog" as a typo. Not a big deal. Aerosmith fanatics like myself like to have it only because it's just a little cool, quirky thing, kind of like owning the first Kiss album without Kissing Time on it. I mean, it's one less song, but you still seem to want to have that copy. Same thing with this one. It's got a typo on it, but you still want it. It also has an extended bio that for some reason on subsequent pressings they went ahead and deleted that. This here is a second pressing. This is a US pressing, and it has "Walking the Dog" instead of "Dig," and it has the shorter paragraph on it. On a standard red Columbia label. I'm not going to pull all those out to show them to you because it's pretty standard. Here's another copy. I've got several copies of this. Actually, I think this one here was a... Oh yeah, this is a European pressing, actually. This is a European pressing on the CBS label, actually. That might be kind of cool to see, as opposed to the normal Columbia label. Sorry, I know everybody hates this sound, but it is what it is. Yeah, this is, unlike, the majority of the American, Canadian, whatnot pressings, this pressing is a European on the CBS label. So anyhow, collector like myself, I'm a nut. I collect anything Aerosmith, multiple pressings. It's the exact same album. After the song "Dream On" became a hit for the band, thanks to a DJ who started playing the song, the cover was changed to this one, which with featuring "Dream On" it. This is actually the more common cover, at least it was for many years. But more recently, actually I think 2014 or 13, the album was released again with the original cover on 180 gram vinyl on Record Store Day. And they're all hand numbered. This happens to be number 1334. I don't have any idea how many it was out of, but first Aerosmith album, a little different than the rest of their albums, a little not quite as heavy, kind of a more Stonesy vibe, but still a great record. One I revisit quite a bit. Second album, much heavier, much better guitar work. This was Get Your Wings. This here is a second pressing. You can tell by the pink Get Your Wings logo and the yellow Aerosmith wings, as opposed to the first pressing, which featured a metallic gold wings and red Get Your Wings logo here. So, I mean, it's not a big difference between the two of them, other than the fact that the logos are a different color and whatnot. But This album definitely featured a heavier sound. Had songs like, you know, Train Kept a Rollin', Space, which I love, Space, Lords of Thighs, SOS, Seasons of Wither, and just a very cool mid-paced song. And then of course their hit song, Same Old Song and Dance. This album was the first album to bring in producer Jack Douglas, and Jack would become like the 6th member of Aerosmith for quite a few albums. And of course, everybody knows that, you know, Jack also brought in some studio musicians to play some stuff on here. Dick, I believe it was Dick Wagner, played some guitar on Train Kept Rolling. Doesn't really matter. That was really common. It's still probably very common. And then here's the 180-gram Record Store Day pressing from, I believe it's 2013. Exactly the same. They kind of cheesed out on the logo though. Instead of going for the gold, they just put a CMYK equivalent of the gold. So it kind of has that kind of goldish brown look as opposed to being actual PMS gold ink like there is on the original pressing. That was in 1974, and then in 1975, Aerosmith's huge breakout album came out, Toys in the Attic. Now, I love Aerosmith, and I have everything, you'll see just about everything on vinyl. I'm actually missing a decent original pressing of this. This is an original pressing, but it's got that kind of tears on the end. So I keep my eye out for, you know, an inexpensive original pressing copy of this. Again, it's just on the regular, you know, the regular Columbia label. There's nothing, no special inserts, no special, you know, sleeves or anything. It's just a white sleeve. But I'm still, like I said, I'm keeping my eyes open for it. But regardless, I have the 180-gram Record Store Day pressing, which this one happens to be number 2,297. They don't say of, so I have no idea how many it was of. These Record Store Day pressings are pretty nice. They're 180 gram. And they came with advertising for the album that was out at the time, 2012. But this one doesn't, like I said, even the Record Store Day pressing doesn't have any special inserts, just a clear plastic sleeve. So that was 1975, you know, huge breakout for them. Walk This Way was a hit, Sweet Emotion was a hit, Big 10-inch Record was a hit, and yeah, that was, you know, all those. But then there's also, you know, deep cuts like Uncle Salty, great song. What else is on here? No More, No More, and then the ballad, You See Me Crying. You know, people always complain that Aerosmith in recent years does too many ballads. They've always done ballads. They've always done funk-based songs. They've done heavy metal songs. That was the nice thing about the 70s. Bands weren't confined to having to just sound like this. You know, you could do a funk song, you could do a ballad, and it all kind of blended together and became the band's sound. And that's what I liked about Aerosmith. They kind of had a little bit of all of that, rounded out by, you know, Tyler's very charismatic vocals. 1976, Rocks. This is an original pressing. Difference between the original pressing and the repressings, not a ton. The original pressing was on a was printed on textured paper. So I can just get it out of the sleeve. There we go. I'm not sure you're gonna be able to see that on here. This got a very slight amount of ring wear on it, but as you get, I'll put the glare on it so you can kind of see maybe the bit of texture on the paper. But otherwise, this is a pristine copy. And this is the first one to come with an insert, kind of this caricatures of the band, and then the collage on the back. I can remember listening to this as a kid over and over and over again. You know what? I still listen to it over and over again, and just, you know, staring at these pictures, and you always found, you know, new stuff in there that you didn't see the last time. So, Aerosmith Rocks, 1976. That album actually really had some singles on it too. The biggest one being Back in the Saddle. But as I recall, Last Child was also a single from that album. And if I'm not mistaken, yeah, here's the U.S. single for Last Child with combination on the back. Heavy record for 76. I call this was 70s heavy metal. I mean, a song like Nobody's Fault. You know, if that song doesn't trip your trigger, then your spoon doesn't fit out your bowl, because it's just heavy, supercharged. And Testament did a cover of that song, if I'm not mistaken. But the entire album's solid. I mean, Back in the Saddle, Last Child, Rats in the Cellar, combination, Sick as a Dog, great heavy song. Get the Let Out, Licking a Promise, and then again a ballad, Home Tonight. By this time, of course, the band were huge, selling out stadiums, playing giant festivals, and they were totally drug-addled. But, you know, that drug-addledness, it carried on to the next album. When this album came out, people hated it. Me? I thought it was awesome. And I still think it's awesome. I actually bought my copy brand new at a Kmart in New Jersey. And this here happens to be a US pressing on a UK pressing on CBS Records. And it actually has the Aerosmith logo and drawing line printed right on top, whereas US pressings look like this. And they had a sticker on the top with the Aerosmith logo on it. This is I kept the shrink wrap on. This is one of the few I keep my shrink wrap on just because of that. Finding copies in this, you know, in this good a shape, pretty difficult of original pressings because first of all it's white. It's also an uncoated stock. It does not have any, you know, coating on it, so it tends to get ringwear, real easy dirt and grime. And this one here is an original pressing in pristine condition. I mean, this is truly a near mint record, as is this UK pressing. Otherwise, probably much the same. This one also came with an insert. Let me grab this one out. It was a black logo with. Well, actually, this one has different. I forgot. All right. Well, it's the same as the picture sleeve in the other one, but here's the insert in the UK version. Came with the Aerosmith logo on one side and then the liner notes on the other. And yeah, that's it. There's no other. But I might as well, since I got this one open, show you the CBS label. By the way, playing in the background is a bootleg from the 70s called Rattlesnake Shake, live at Counterpoint Studios. So there's your CBS label as opposed to your Columbia label. And then as well, here is the 2000 I think this might have been 2014 Record Store Day repressing, 180 gram vinyl. Again, number 2015 of who knows. And it contains all the original stuff, including the. On these repressings, they didn't actually do picture sleeves. They put them in those plastic sleeves like I showed earlier, which are actually really nice. They're static free, but they put all the liner notes that were originally on those sleeves on inserts. So Aerosmith, Draw Line 78. Again, another heavy album. All over the place musically, definitely drug infused, which, you know, like it or not, it really helped. It really gave them a sound. But the title track, Kings and Queens, one of my all-time favorite songs. Love the mix of the heavy guitars and I keep on wanting to say ukulele. It's not a ukulele. Skip my mind. Name of the instrument that's on there that like mixed. It's not a tambourine. It's I can't remember what it's called. Whatever. How annoying when you're doing the video and can't think of something like that. But anyhow, other heavy songs in there. Bright Light Fright, Joe Perry composition, heavily inspired by the punk movement that was going on at the time. The Hand That Feeds, Sight for Sore Eyes, and Milk Cow Blues, a cover song the band had been playing live for years. And in fact, they continued to play it live after this for many years, including at the Texas Jam with Ted Nugent guesting on the guitar. Yeah, Draw the Line. I'm not sure why so many people hated that album. It really is a solid Aerosmith record. Didn't have any huge hits on it. Maybe that's why. You know, it didn't have Dream On or Walk This Way or Back in the Saddle. But like I said, Kings and Queens, one of my favorite all-time songs. Next year would have been 1978 and the release of Live Bootleg. And this indeed, unlike many live albums, is a live album. This is a compilation of live recordings that the band had done and bootlegs. I mean, there is some stuff dating all the way back to their club days on here. You've got Chip Away at the Stone, Sight for Sore Eyes, Mama Can, SOS, but then you've got stuff, the stuff they were playing live at the time, but then you also got stuff like I Ain't Got You, Mother Popcorn, which are covers they were doing in the early days of Aerosmith. Of course, Train Kept a Rollin', another cover, which their cover was based off the Yardbirds version. Back in the Saddle. Always liked the pressing, the cover too. They tried they purposely made it look like a bootleg with coffee stains and the stamped logos and There's even a misprint on the back. The song Draw the Line, which is on here, isn't listed. Not, you know, atypical for bootlegs. And then this one actually came with all kinds of stuff. Much like Draw the Line, it's on an uncoated stock. So copies tend to be very dirty when you find them used, but this one's very clean. This one comes with a gatefold with tons of live photos of the band, as well as picture sleeves. And once again, this is on just the regular red Columbia logo that everybody's seen a million times from a million bands. Yeah, this copy is pristine. Looks like it just came out of the, you know, out of the shrink wrap, 1978. And here's the other picture sleeve with some different photos on it. And it also came with a huge poster. My original copy I bought when I was a kid. I did hang my poster on the wall, but this I've since repurchased this record. This copy is near perfect, if not perfect. It's probably cleaner than clean as it was when it came out of the box the very first time. And then there's also a different pressing of that same record, and this is, you know, a separate pressing. This is very similar. It has a different Aerosmith logo stamped on here. I've heard it say that this is a promotional only copy. I don't know if that's true. They seem to pop up in the wild enough to think that it was probably beyond just that. And some of you are probably thinking, hey, you're holding it sideways. Not really. There's the spine. So these copies are actually printed like this on purpose, obviously to give it that, you know, same bootleg quality. But it's got all the same stuff in it. It's got the picture sleeves. You know, it's 2 records. It has the same gatefold. And the poster, obviously. This copy I've had for years and years and years, and it actually has a few stains on it that weren't on the original. You know, you'd think that would bother me. It really doesn't, because it kind of adds to the overall appeal of the bootleg quality of the record. This is my copy. You know, nobody else has a copy exactly like mine. And if you look really closely, somebody, and it's very light, hard to see, but somebody wrote their name right here too. Kind of funny. I can't even read the name to tell you whose copy it is. But anyhow, that was 1978, and the band actually released a single from that as well. The live version of Chip Away at the Stone, which was at that point an unreleased track, but they also released the studio version, which only came out on this single and was a promotional thing. So it's got the live and the studio version on here. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the studio version was the B-side, not the A-side. The A-side was the live version. I don't think the song did very well for the band. It's actually a fantastic song. I wish, you know, people would have got into it and they would play it more often, because it's a great song. It was actually written by Richie Supa, who worked with the band on many, many other songs as well. He did, I'll show you in the future, some other songs he wrote with them too, but yeah. Chip Away at the Stone, studio live, US single. Also in 1978, that year, they had played a role in that horrible Beatles satire movie, Sgt. Pepper's. Really, Aerosmith were one of the only bands that came out unscathed from that movie. But they released a single for Come Together. This here happens to be a Japanese pressing on the CBS label. There's many different pressings of this, of this single, but always thought Aerosmith's cover of Come Together was awesome. I like it better than the original. Never was a huge Beatle fan to begin with. I respect the Beatles, but I just think this song absolutely annihilates the original. And I always love that the part in the movie when they're fighting with Peter Frampton, and Frampton dies, or knocked down, and Tyler dies, and what the girl named Strawberry Fields is all tied up with her mouth gagged. Classic scene in a terrible movie. But yeah, anyhow, Come Together, released in 1978, ended up being a hit for the band. Made it onto their greatest hits album. 1979, the band released Night in the Ruts. And fortunately, Joe Perry at this point was done with the band. Him and Tyler were fighting a lot, the Toxic Twins. And thanks a little bit to Joe Perry's wife being involved in the situation as well. With a scuffle backstage with her wife and another wife, he walked out in the band, and that was the end of it. So this album was not finished. They were mid recording when that happened. So the band brought in other people to play on this one, including a guy named Jimmy Crespo, who formerly played in a band called, let's see, I got it right here. Band called Flame. And there is Jimmy Crespo right there. And Jimmy ended up, you know, recording in place of Joe Perry and stuff. But Joe Perry's on here as well. I remember reading articles from, you know, interviews with Joe Perry in '79 and '80 where they were asking about this record. He was like, "I'm surprised my parts are still on there." But this is a solid record. I think it's different than Draw the Line or Rocks, but it's as heavy as Rocks. And it's got some fantastic stuff on here. Remember Walking in the Sand was the minor hit from this album. But a song like No Surprise, super heavy, and it's a song inspired by the band's history. Great album. Think About It, Chiquita, another heavy song with heavy riffing. I believe they recorded a video for that song with Jimmy Crespo in it. Of course, there was Reefer Head Woman and 3 Mile Smile, which the band continued to play live for many years after this came out. Yeah, fantastic album. And this one too had a picture sleeve. Probably should have pulled these sleeves off here before I did this video, but you know, it is what it is. I still got a lot of records to go, so I need to hurry up and shut up and basically stop talking about all this stuff. But so yeah, here's the cover, which was actually, if I'm not mistaken, this band photo was actually taken for the single I showed earlier. For the, it was recorded. It was actually shot for the. Chip the Stone, having a hard time thinking here. Chip the Stone single. I've never actually seen a picture sleeve for this, so I don't know if one actually exists. I just know that this shot and this shot here, right in the nuts, was actually, you know, made for that single, and then of course used for this album. But Night in the Ruts was actually the album title they were considering for, I believe it was Get Your Wings. So it was an album title that had been floating around in the band for quite some time, and then it came to fruition in 1979 with this album here. And then here is your picture sleeve. And when I was a kid, I ordered that patch and that poster from this very order form. Don't have either one of them anymore. I wish I did. Sewed that onto my denim vest when I was in high school, and that poster, I'm sure, has disintegrated since. So there you go. Night in the Ruts. And again, I have the 2014 Record Store Day 180 gram repressing. And these repressings sound great. And again, it doesn't have a picture sleeve, but it has the insert as, you know, all the stuff on the picture sleeve on the insert. Next year, 1980. Excuse me, allergies drive me crazy. AEROSMITH'S Greatest Hits. This album was massively huge. A Greatest Hits album that sold, you know, platinum, unheard of. This one did. I don't know why. You know, it is have a lot of great songs on there, but it even has shortened versions of the song on there. And frankly, there was songs I would have put on here that weren't included. But you know, Dream On, of course, Same Old Song and Dance, Sweet Emotion, which I believe is a shortened version. Walk This Way, Last Child, Back in the Saddle, Draw the Line, Kings and Queens. Like I said, one of my favorite songs. Come Together, which this would have been the first time Come Together would be featured on an Aerosmith 12-inch album, and then Remember Walking in the Sand. And I actually have 2 copies of this. I have a copy framed as well. Wish I could say I met the band. Never have. This autograph was obtained by Bridget, and I don't know the whole story behind this one. I do know that either Bridget or Steven Tyler smudged their signatures because both their names are smeared. But it's still really cool, and I obviously have it framed and hanging on my wall in my music room. So, and this one too came with a picture insert. You know what? Everybody's seen Greatest Hits. I'm going to go on and move on because this is going to take forever. Okay, so during that year, Perry left and recorded several solo albums. So while it sucks that he left, he recorded a fantastic album called Let the Music Do the Talking. Just great guitar-heavy rock and roll, inspired by the likes of, you know, Jeff Beck and Jimi Hendrix. But it sounds like Aerosmith without Tyler and vocals. It's really a heavy record. any of these songs could have been on, you know, Rockin' a Hard Place, Night in the Ruts, any of those late 70s, early 80s albums. And this too was on this on the Columbia label. Here's the picture sleeve that came with it. You know, Joe Perry at the time still had a huge name for himself. He was still very well known. This happens to be a white label promo on the Columbia label. Excuse me, I dropped it all. And then here's the standard version on with the red Columbia label. Like I said, it sucks that, you know, Aerosmith split up during that time, or Joe Perry left, but we were given two great bands. So now we had the Joe Perry Project and Aerosmith. And then the Joe Perry's second album, which I just recently showed in another video of mine and spoke about. Love the first two albums by the Joe Perry Project. Both of them kind of had that guitar-heavy sound. A little bit of T-Rex mixed in here. A little bit of a punk inspiration in some of it. Joe Perry's got that can't sing, don't care vocal style, kind of like Ace Frehley. And yeah, great songs on here. East Coast, West Coast, Buzz Buzz, No Substitute for Arrogance, TV Police, South Station Blues, another song that could have been on an Aerosmith record. This is on this, you know, the Columbia label as well. I can't really remember if it's on a picture sleeve or not. We'll find out. It did. There's your picture sleeve. And then, as well, Joe Perry released, I've Got the Rock and Roll, Once the Rock and Roll Was Your Rocker, excuse me, I've Got the Rock and Roll Again was the last album. Once the Rock and Roll Was Your Rocker. Can't say that this album is as good as the first two. A little glammier, a little campier. There's some decent songs on here. I think Black Velvet Pants is good. Woman in Chains is awesome. And like his cover of Bang a Gong on this album too. I think Joe Perry looks like a badass on this album though. Cowboy Mock Bell, well, it looks a little strange on here, but he's actually a nice guy. I spoke to him on Facebook a few times. Joe Pett and Danny Hargrove, yeah, they're a little strange looking, kind of looking a little glammy, but yeah, you know, not a bad album. This was 1982, I believe. In that time, Aerosmith only released one album with Joe Perry out. Brad Whitford eventually quit too, and I forgot to grab an album. I'm going to cut and grab it real quick. Okay, we're back. So, like I said, for Joe Perry quit, and then not long after, Brad Whitford had quit, and he released an album with Ted Nugent, vocalist and guitarist Derek St. Holmes. This was the only thing they released. Don't think there was any hits from this album, though there was a single released. I can't remember off the top of my head what the name of the single was. Sharpshooter. I think Sharpshooter was the single that was released. This is much more melodic than Aerosmith, definitely an 80s feel to it, and Derek St. Holmes does the vocals, and he's got a great voice. The guy can sing, that's for sure. This happens to be a gold label promo, I believe. Oh no, it's not. This is a regular version. There you go. So the Whitford St. Holmes album was released, and the band already had Jimmy Crespo, but they also added a guy named Rick DUFAY, who had previously released a solo album under the name Tender Loving Use. This album, not my thing. It's okay. This is more of a I'm an Aerosmith fanatic and have to have it kind of album. It's kind of like your Rick Springfield style rock and roll. It's not bad. It's just not, you know, not necessarily my thing. But anyhow, the two of them with Tyler and Hamilton and Joey Kramer released Rockin' a Hard Place. Now, this is 1982, I believe, and Aerosmith definitely were in a funk. You know, playing the half-filled stadiums, Tyler passing out on stage, and but at this time, you know, I was just coming into music, and I was a huge Aerosmith fan. And this album is still one of my favorites. It was also my very first concert. I saw Aerosmith and Pat Travers at the Pat Travers at the Spectrum in Philadelphia, and I think it was 82 or 83. Fantastic show. Like I said, one of the first shows I ever saw. I thought they were great. I was impressed with Jimmy Crespo on stage. The guy had a big presence. He's a short dude, but such a big presence. And I love this album. There's some really heavy material on here. Of course, another song with the help of man, I'm having a hard time remembering names today. Same guy who wrote Chip Away at the Stone, Richie Supa. He also helped them with the song Lightning Strikes, which would have been a single off this album, which I still hear occasionally on FM radio, today. It's a great song. It's heavy, great guitar work. Then there's also songs like Jailbait, Bolivian and Ragamuffin, the title track, which is also subtitled Cheshire Cat, Jig Is Up, and then of course there was the ballad Push It Comes to Shove, and then there was an odd little, I don't know what you want to call it, a poem by Steven Tyler called Joni's Butterfly. Here is the 2014 or 14 Record Store Day release. And this too had a picture sleeve, although this one's going to end up having the insert rather than the picture sleeve. So here's the poem, and then here's the other side of the sleeve. It's just basically a discography of the band. Had a huge poster that's hanging up in my room, a promo poster. Had these same photos on it, except there was a better photo of Rick DUFAY. I don't know what's up with that photo. That's kind of bizarre. Him wearing that yellow and red sweater doesn't quite fit with the rest of the band. But in the poster I had, he was wearing, I think, a British flag shirt or something like that. But again, I think Tyler and Crespo, this look like badasses. Like my first concert, one of my favorite records of all time, probably because of it being one of my first concerts. So that's the only thing they released during that whole time that the band was broken up, or that Joe Perry and Brad Whitford are not in the band, and they were just sinking. But they continued to play live shows, many of which were released as bootlegs. And I remember some of those bootlegs, Tyler was screaming out to the crowd, especially after the band got big. Where were you guys in '82? Where were you guys in '84? And I'd be screaming back, I was watching you pass out on stage, jerk. Because I've been a diehard, man. It didn't matter, High school, in the mid-'80s, when they were in a slump, I had their logo painted on the back of my denim vest. And so anyhow, eventually the band got back together. Whitford and Perry rejoined the band, and oh, happy day for me. I hitchhiked to the mall while I was in college because I didn't have a car to buy a copy of Done With Mirrors. And this album, of course, was released in several different formats. Obviously just cassette and vinyl at the time. Being that this was released in 85. Yeah, it was 85. But people didn't get it, Why is it backwards? Because it's Done With Mirrors. So eventually this album was released with with everything reversed to the right way. Most of the CD copies you see on the shelves today have it the right way. Original CD copies that were released in the mid-'80s have it backwards still. I will show that in my next, in my next installment of my Aerosmith collection. So this is not, I would not say this is a great album. This is a good album.
Thank you for the treat of the month. Aerosmith on KRQ, a live broadcast from the Counterpart Studios in beautiful downtown Cheviot. There's about 1 million people to thank tonight, all the members of Aerosmith, all the assorted freaks, weirdos, hippies, campers, and other kind of people that I mentioned earlier that came tonight.